America sold its most powerful AI chips to China for a share of the profits. This isn't speculation, it's official policy. For years, Washington had promised to cripple China's AI capabilities, pledging to prevent its technological ascent. Yet, a profound reversal occurred. Despite these earlier promises, direct sales of advanced processing units to Beijing were not only permitted, but formalized.
Just prior to this, a firm stance had been taken. In 2023, the Bureau of Industry and Security, the agency that determines what technology can cross national borders, drew a hard line. China's AI labs were making significant strides, and Washington desperately tried to slow them. Officials began rigorously limiting the computing power that could legally be exported, aiming to create a technological blockade. Yet with a simple, almost imperceptible directive, the 21st century's most strategic technology landed back with a major competitor. The AI Cold War wasn't truly about stopping China. It was, in practice, about financial gain. This profound policy U-turn was hidden within a brief one-page memo, representing one of the largest shifts in American tech strategy, appearing almost without public notice or debate. Under this new, quiet agreement, the government would claim a percentage of every advanced chip shipped across the Pacific. These weren't chips for everyday devices. This hardware is built for one explicit purpose: training sophisticated AI systems at an unprecedented scale. So much raw data moves through these units that each functions less like a simple component and more like a miniature intelligence factory.
Stack thousands of these units together, and you forge an industrial compute cluster. Such a system can train elite AI models in weeks, not years. Crucially, under prior U.S. export controls, this kind of advanced system was never intended for destinations like China. That was the established unbending rule, now quietly circumvented by the new policy.
Washington had promised to cripple China's AI. Officials moved to limit high-power computing exports, but the most advanced chips already far exceeded these restrictions. So tech giants like Nvidia adapted quickly. They engineered a less powerful version, designed to just skirt the new regulations. This allowed them to maintain market access without technically crossing the established line. Yet even this creative workaround proved short-lived. A clean ban never materialized. Instead, policy shifted to a more flexible annual waiver system, requiring individual approvals for each sale.
This new process became known as the China Chip Review. In practice, the government itself assumed the power to decide, case by case, which Chinese entities could purchase advanced chips, and the identities of these approved buyers revealed the true shift. These weren't obscure startups or low-risk companies. The list included major tech firms, but also research institutions with direct ties to China's military and state-backed cloud providers integral to its defense infrastructure. Organizations American policy had spent 2 administrations trying to isolate from advanced computing were now suddenly eligible customers.
Once this hardware left the country, the rules and regulations didn't follow. The computing power remained unsupervised, its application untraceable. The United States was now directly collecting revenue from selling technology it had, just years prior, publicly designated a national security threat. Even those who crafted the initial blockade reportedly learned of this policy reversal through news reports, not official briefings. Beijing reacted by instructing state-linked firms to prioritize domestic chipmakers. Yet major Chinese tech companies like Alibaba, ByteDance, and Tencent moved swiftly, reportedly placing orders for hundreds of thousands of units of the latest American chips. This transformation, from unthinkable to operational without a single congressional vote, followed a clear financial trail. By August 2025, an agreement was reportedly taking shape. In a genuinely new chapter in American trade, chipmakers agreed to remit 15% of their Chinese chip revenue back to the U.S. government in exchange for export licenses. This wasn't a traditional tax or tariff. It was a voluntary revenue share, directly negotiated between private corporations and the executive branch. Access for a cut.
For the largest chipmaker, the numbers were staggering. This 15% share, combined with other commitments, amounted to an estimated $12 billion, a sum comparable to the entire annual economies of small nations. For more powerful chips, the surcharge reportedly climbed to 25%.
The fine print of these agreements included a 50% cap, stipulating that shipments to China could not exceed half of what was sold in the U.S. This entire arrangement operated on a one-year clock, set to expire in December 2026, after which it would be renegotiated or extended. But the precedent had already been established. When a government financially benefits from a corporation's exports, its incentive structure fundamentally shifts. Blockades cease to be deterrents. They become checkpoints collecting revenue. To orchestrate this complex shift, companies needed more than just corporate presentations and public relations teams. They required significant influence. In 2024 alone, one major chipmaker's federal lobbying filings reportedly totaled around $640,000. For much of its existence, the tech giant was a minor player in Washington's political landscape. Federal lobbying filings in 2024 amounted to merely $640,000. This sum was negligible by the standards of a corporation boasting a multi-trillion-dollar market value. Pharmaceutical companies, a tenth its size, routinely spent 10 times that amount. But then, something shifted dramatically. In a single year, the company's lobbying expenditure soared to $4.95 million, an astonishing increase of over 600%. This wasn't about tax breaks or antitrust concerns. It was about controlling the flow of advanced technology. The primary target was the Bureau of Industry and Security, specifically its export rules, determining which foreign entities could receive American silicon. A strategic hire was made. A key figure joined a prominent lobbying firm, known for its deep connections in Washington. This individual wasn't just any lobbyist. He had chaired the House Foreign Affairs Committee for years, a crucial body shaping U.S. policy on technology and international relations. He understood more than just the written law. He grasped the intricate mechanics of policy, understanding who drafts the initial language, which offices subtly influence decisions, and where true leverage resides. This unique expertise transforms rigid regulations into adaptable tools rather than mere text. While companies routinely hire former officials and lobbying expenditures increase annually, this situation stood apart due to its extraordinary timeline. The strategic hire, the surge in lobbying, and subsequent policy shifts did not unfold over years. They happened in a matter of months. Export categories, firmly closed in May, became ambiguously defined by August and were essentially open by December. This granted a crucial foothold. This foothold inside the rooms where licensing exceptions were decided proved invaluable. Once the tech company's policy team established this access, an intricate system, described by Axios, took over. This is the corporate loyalty scorecard, an internal rating system within the administration. Managed directly through the Chief of Staff's office, its very structure was shaped by a background rooted in political consulting and lobbying. It meticulously tracks 553 companies and trade associations, grading their commitment to supporting the administration's signature legislation. Companies are categorized as strong, moderate, or low supporters. This score isn't arbitrary. It's based on tangible actions: social media posts, press releases, advertisements, video testimonials, and attendance at White House events. Officials stated this document is adaptive, expanding its scope to cover other key priorities. From all available observations, the tech company's score is exceptional. Their substantial $15 billion domestic investment, including announced data centers in politically significant states, aligned perfectly with the system's metrics. This commitment also secured executives valuable face time at administration events and linked their massive supply partnerships to major national infrastructure projects. Those who achieve high scores, staff confirm, receive what is described as fast-track treatment. This advantage isn't about overriding decisions. It's more subtle. It operates by pre-sorting applications,
categorizing them before they even undergo review. A competitor with a technically superior proposal but a lower scorecard rating doesn't necessarily fail on merit. Their request is simply pre-framed, effectively losing before the debate even begins. Following its unprecedented surge in lobbying and the establishment of its exceptional corporate loyalty score, an industry giant now doesn't just lead the AI chip market, it utterly dominates it. In the commercial sector, used for training and running advanced AI systems, this company controls roughly 94% of the market. Its nearest competitor holds only 5%, with all others trailing far behind. This overwhelming dominance shapes the landscape. When export approvals become case-by-case decisions, the system isn't truly weighing equal alternatives. Instead, it's navigating a reality where one player's technology is indispensable, virtually guaranteeing its path for advanced chip exports.
The distinction is vital. Modern AI systems aren't merely about the physical hardware. They depend on the intricate software ecosystems built upon that hardware. Customer demand overwhelmingly favors this specific silicon. Chinese laboratories, in particular, have constructed their entire software infrastructure around these products. Replacing these components isn't a simple swap. It's akin to rebuilding an entire operating system while the existing one is still running. Thus, despite the theoretical existence of multiple suppliers, practical demand funnels toward a single source. This market dominance, coupled with deeply embedded software, ensures any pathway for advanced chip exports almost automatically routes through the leading company.
This reality meant the dominant player didn't require explicit preferential policy. When a revenue share system was introduced, it didn't need to choose winners. It simply followed the market's existing trajectory. On paper, the arrangement appeared neutral, theoretically open to any supplier. In practice, however, only one viable option existed, leaving competitors to observe the terms being set. This structure perpetuates itself. Every chip shipped deepens the market leader's presence in Chinese data centers, generating revenue. A percentage of this revenue then flows back to the U.S. Treasury, further solidifying the political rationale for continued shipments. But the official rulebook still relies on technical benchmarks. How then does one legally ship a chip that by explicit 2023 limits should be banned?
This is where the system reveals its cleverness. Inside the Bureau of Industry and Security, rules are not altered solely through formal policy changes. They also evolve through technical inquiries and guidance notes. These are documents crafted to clarify how existing regulations apply in practice, without public hearings or votes. These clarifications subtly adjust policy in real time, masking any appearance of actual change. Over time, these adjustments exhibit a consistent direction. As high-level meetings between the leading chip company and U.S. officials occur, new guidance continuously refines what falls within acceptable export limits. Each update, individually, seems minor. Cumulatively, they don't just interpret the rules, they shift the boundaries, just enough to ensure the chips continue their flow.
None of this is technically illegal. It's often the system operating as designed. The U.S. Department of Commerce possesses the authority to interpret its own export regulations. This interpretation is a constant process, happening through technical updates and guidance. The cumulative impact of dozens of small clarifications, however, transforms fixed limits into negotiated thresholds. Technical specifications, intended as objective barriers, begin to reflect input from the very industry they govern. When a company can influence the interpretation of rules governing its exports, it's not merely being regulated, it actively helps shape its own rulebook. Consider the memory in the advanced H200 chip. It's more than just a memory spec. In frontier model training, it's the difference between a system that can hold a top-tier language model in active context and one that can't. It's also the line between a chatbot and a cyber warfare engine. By engineering chips precisely at the edge of these evolving rules, the company is, in effect, co-authoring American export policy in real time. This dynamic set the stage for unprecedented global engagements. The tech giant CEO embarked on a global tour, meeting with high-ranking officials in nations like Taiwan, Japan, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and the United Kingdom.
At each stop, he announced massive compute commitments and infrastructure deals. These were agreements typically reserved for trade representatives or cabinet secretaries. What's more, these corporate announcements often set the national agenda for subsequent diplomatic conversations. In Saudi Arabia, for instance, a sovereign AI initiative powered by this company's hardware dictated the terms of later American foreign policy discussions. The company effectively drafted the policy, and the State Department adapted to it.
This pattern wasn't isolated. A similar dynamic unfolded in Abu Dhabi. Partnerships and chip commitments with a major local tech conglomerate were finalized before any official U.S. rulebook for AI cooperation with the UAE was established. This completely inverted the traditional foreign policy process. The Department of State exists precisely to coordinate how the United States approaches strategic technology and its transfer across borders. Yet this new model allows a company to announce commercial commitments first, leaving the government to react and adjust policy to match what's already in motion. It's an unprecedented shift.
This company, while not a state in the traditional sense, wields immense power. It controls the very chips that determine what AI systems can and cannot do, sitting at the nexus of all AI capability. This gives it unparalleled political access, ensuring its commercial decisions don't merely adhere to policy, but actively shape it. The relationship transcends simple regulation. It suggests a company operating not just under rules, but alongside their very formation, often setting the terms to which the state then responds. The AI models developed from this compute will span everything from commercial chatbots to military targeting systems.
Once delivered, this compute becomes whatever the operator chooses to do with it, regardless of initial intent. What makes this situation so difficult to reverse is that it's no longer just a matter of policy. It's deeply intertwined with income. As revenue from these exports flows into federal planning, it becomes an integral part of the budget. Domestic build-out programs, partly funded by these very exports, create powerful constituencies that will vigorously defend them. In essence, the government has acquired a financial stake in the continued export of the very hardware it once designated as a controlled good. Unwinding these deals would demand more than just a political decision. It would necessitate removing revenue already factored into agency budgets. As the company raises its revenue projections, the government's projected share increases proportionally, strengthening the political argument for expanding export waivers. The privatization of foreign policy is no longer a metaphor, it's a balance sheet reality. Once a company demonstrates that national security policy exemptions can be obtained at a fixed price, that precedent becomes permanent. This isn't a one-off anomaly. It's a template for transforming regulatory pressure into a negotiated cut of revenue, a system where strategic technologies are traded for economic gain, fundamentally altering global power dynamics.